Like Ellie got in trouble the other day, sent home from school, has a sign held up apparently upon pickup saying the school's holding me hostage. Right?
It's behavior, bitches.
Hey guys, it's Liat. Welcome to today's episode of Behavior Bitches podcast, where I am joined by one of my besties and sister.
Hi everyone, Talia here again.
We're here because every now and then when I have a specific guest on, I mean, it's not really fair because she gets to pick and choose which shows that she comes on to. Like, oh, this one's interesting to me. This is something that I'm dealing with in my current life as a struggle, so I'll come on. Or like, this guest seems cool. This is probably good for me to go further in life. So like, that's how she comes on. So today's guest
obviously was interesting enough to me. Congratulations. No, I'm just kidding.
So our guest today we are joined by Nicole Stewart, who is a behavior analyst and special educator, who specializes in ADHD and emotional regulation. She works with kids and families who feel like nothing has worked and helps them understand how neurodivergent brains actually function so they can build strategies that finally stick. Nicole blends behavioral therapy with really relationship-driven, play-based approach, and she's super passionate about changing how we think about and treat ADHD. Welcome to the show, Nicole.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so stoked to have you. I've been following you it's newer that I'm on LinkedIn every now and then looking at things, but I'd always see your stuff. And I was like, okay, we need to have this person on. So that's how that's how this came to be. And my sister here has been joining me lately.
Yeah, as you said, I come on when a topic interests me, or I also do a lot of outbound when I see someone who's interesting. I reach out to them, so then I sit in on those episodes too, and I just add to the banter and the BS. So always fun to be here.
I love it. Talia, are you also BCBA?
No, but I'm also a bitch. So that's why I'm here on Behavior Bitches.
So
I love it.
She's definitely, I think you're the bitchier one of us.
We need to figure that out at some point.
Like a bitch-meter?
Oh, yeah, you are probably...
No, you've softened up since becoming a mom.
I've softened up.
Faux show.
But yeah, I am probably more critical than you are.
Yeah.
And I'm just like the older sister. I think that's just what happens. It's like the older sister dynamic.
Right.
You know?
Like it's like cool to be a bitch.
It's cool to be a bitch when you're the older sister. I have to keep you in line. I never thought my sister would be cool. And so like now I just don't want her to get too big of an ego. You know, I have to like keep you humble. But anyway, okay. Back to our guest. And that's also another thing she says. Again, because I don't have ADHD, I will always veer us back on course.
Yeah, and like kill any combo. So with that, we want to get to know you a little bit first. We're going to pair a little bit with you. So
I love it.
We have some questions just to get to know Nicole. So if someone were to follow you around for a day, what would they find the most interesting?
Oh my God. I got to take a beat to think about that. What would they find the most interesting? I feel like I'm all over the place. I think the sheer number of lives I live in one day, I sometimes am like, girl, you got to slow down, but then I can't slow down. And then I think also when I do have downtime, like that I just am like sitting and watching like a Grey's Anatomy episode or something for 30 minutes to just be like, now my brain is turning off. Now we're turning off and I cannot do anything.
Are you able to turn it off?
With a screen, which is maybe not something you should tell my children, but
you have ADHD?
I feel like... So I'm not diagnosed, but one of my sons is diagnosed. One I'm sure has ADHD and have been sure since the moment he was born. And my mother probably has ADHD. And even like we have great uncles and aunts that we found like old report cards that would be like so-and-so, like 1915s. And my mother's British. So this is like 1915s UK. So-and-so would be a good student if he just paid attention and focused a little better. And I'm like, oh, it's such an ADHD report card.
That's
like,
so
look at that.
funny.
Like
we had just pulled out, my dad's has this like scrapbook that my mom made him. And it had his report cards from when he was like 4. And it's like, Ivan is my dad is like the worst ADHD,
yeah.
Bad. It's like Ivan is very rambunctious. He could have a lot of excitement, and in doing different things. But to get him there is very difficult. Like, and it's like,
Yeah, it shows up early, I guess.
Yeah,
Talk about
it really does.
so interesting. Okay, which question do you want to ask?
what's a totally random skill or talent you have that people wouldn't expect?
God, these are hard questions, guys. I
I know
skill
they
or
are.
talent. I find myself to be skillless, so I don't know how to answer that.
I do too. Skill-less, like, unite. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a generalist. Like, I can do a lot, but I'm not like I don't play violin and I don't know, but like I don't have a hard skill, but I can throw me at anything and I'll figure it out. And I think that's a skill. I bet that's
No. Well, I can learn. I'm like very good at learning, but I'm not artistic. I'm not creative. I can't keep a beat. I can't dance. I'm not athletic. So like
and you're
as a
humble.
child,
You're humble. I think that's your skill
yes.
is you're humble. Okay, you know
Okay.
what? I want
Okay.
to go to more like things that you can't get wrong. Or no. Let me hear your coffee order.
She's obsessed with coffee orders.
Coffee order, last thing you ordered on Amazon.
And last ChatGPT search.
Yeah, that's always telling.
But let's give her one at a time.
Okay.
Okay.
That's like classic ADHD strategy. You give them one thing at a time, right? Am I
Okay,
right?
so
Yeah,
coffee
yeah.
order.
Coffee order.
Okay. So you're gonna kill me because I feel like I drink tea. I don't drink coffee. So
That's you.
I drink English breakfast tea with a little bit of milk. Or like an iced tea lemonade if it's
Okay,
hot. Like
we don't
today it's like
judge. Our
90
parents are
degrees.
South African. They're big tea drinkers. So with milk also.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boring,
Yeah.
but
And then
acceptable. Okay.
yeah.
Next was what?
Your last Amazon purchase?
Yeah.
Oh, I order like most of the stuff I order on Amazon is like fidgets for clients,
Good.
books. I'm like constantly that's where like I feel like my only skill is being able to learn things is like I'm constantly ordering books to learn like, oh, I just ordered a book on ODD or a book on PDA or something like that, or baseball gear for my son. So it's
Okay.
one of those.
Wait, when you say PDA,
Like public displays of affection.
I don't think that's what she means though.
No, pathological demand avoidance.
Okay, I was like, I thought public display of affection. I was like, that's so cute that you like order on that. Like you guys improving that in your relationship. What? But I assumed it was an acronym. I didn't know.
Yeah. Pathological demand avoidance. So it's like kids who are very demand averse and it's like a new, I guess a new label
Yeah.
in
Like different than
autism.
ODD.
Yeah, which is interesting that you're asking that. It is different than ODD but I guess like I'm still learning about PDA. I feel like I've worked with a lot of kids who are, I would describe as pathologically demand avoidant, but not oppositionally defiant.
Huh.
And I feel like it's more like I'm avoiding the demands, but I'm not necessarily like defying you, if that makes sense. Like I'm avoiding
does make
work
sense.
or things like that.
I feel like I could see that with your own child,
Yeah.
right?
Like just like they don't like to be told what to do, so you have to use like tactics to like make it appear
Yes.
it was their decision or something.
Yeah, like or like we're going up the stairs like bunny rabbits tonight or whatever. Like those are strategies you use with kids with PDD. That's not going to work with an ODD kid.
Right.
I feel like they're still like F you, I'm not going up the stairs.
Okay, so PDA a little bit more malleable.
Okay, I'm actually that's probably going to be like my new rabbit hole. Like I always feel like when I do some kind of podcast, something it's like I'll go into like a deep dive on something, but that's interesting too.
Yeah.
Okay, we did ask last thing you did on ChatGPT. You searched on ChatGPT
Or Claude, no
or
judgment.
Claude, yeah. Which this episode is sponsored by OpenAI though, so we're supposed to ask about Chat.
Kidding.
Is it really? Oh, I was like, wow, how did you get them as a sponsor? Tell me more about that.
So I'm a marketer and like
Yeah.
like
So
that
she's actually probably way more behavioral than me, to be honest.
I probably am a lot more behavioral than you, but like that is such a legitimacy cue that like if we would have just left it all of a sudden this podcast just became so much more legitimate to reference.
Okay, so
OpenAI.
Alan, just keep that in there, bro.
Let's keep it in. We'll cut it out. No, they're not a sponsor, but one day they will be. Okay, but yes,
Yeah.
your preferred generative AI platform. What's the last thing you searched?
So the last thing I searched, my younger son is not growing. And so I searched, oh yeah, I have a lot of medical anxiety and I actually think AI is probably making it worse, but I had a whole conversation with AI last night about him not growing because I'm going to get a second opinion from the another endocrinologist on Thursday. So I was like, what am I supposed to be asking? Like, what do I do in the second opinion?
How old is he?
He is 7.
Okay.
And how do you know he's not growing? Because my sister keeps saying that Kobe, my son, is a miniature. And I'm like, how do you know? Number one. Number two,
It's
I
like
like it. I
relative,
think
right?
it's cute.
I know, but she's probably at the point where you're getting nervous. Like at 5, Kobe just turned 5, so it's still a little bit cute, but I'm trying to sound the alarms a little early for her. But 7, you're probably starting to feel like that's when the cute phase, you've grown out of it a little bit. So you want to like make sure that you're
No,
addressing
7's
it.
still cute, I think.
7 is still cute, but like, I don't know.
Well, I love it because
Right.
he's the size of a 5-year-old, so he's still like
Yes. We love it as
cute, and
parents.
delicious. Yeah, and like he's just adorable. But I would say somewhere like even as early as 3, he went to preschool at our local Y, and he had 2 kids that he was with since he was like 12 weeks old. And at some point they were all kind of the same size. And then I kind of noticed that like they kept growing and he wasn't. And I was like, oh, now you're like a couple inches shorter than them. Oh, now you're like 6 inches shorter
Yeah.
than them. And now you're like a head shorter than like one of them who's a girl, which girls do grow faster when they're little. She's like, he's like up to like here on her at this point. And they're only like 4 or 5 months apart. So it's like a kind of a big size difference. And then I just started to kind of notice like, oh, even in first grade, he was the smallest kid in the entire school, including the kindergartners.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And
Okay.
I feel like it's my ex-husband's family has a history of needing growth hormone. So I was like, it's kind of like in there,
Yeah,
but
it's
also
in there.
like, yeah, I was like a miniature person from like 10 to 14. You also see like their growth charts go down, right? Like he was in
Yeah.
like the 50th percentile, then 20th, and now he's like below the first percentile. But like that's what happened to me between 10 and 14, which is like the worst age in my opinion for a girl to be dealing with. I was like this big and everybody else is growing and going through
Developing.
puberty, and
Right.
I looked like I was in 4th grade. But then all of a sudden I caught up. It just like 1 year it went all back to normal.
Interesting.
I
But
was
you like have to take the action now. Like,
Yeah.
right? It's like this is the
And
time.
human growth, I mean, I've seen it with our girls'
I think that
friends. It really
you're so
helps.
concerned about Kobe. I think that you should take this responsibility on. You say you love
To
him
take
like
the
your
doctor's
own.
appointments. I literally don't even take my own kids to their doctor's appointments. But yeah, okay, we'll address Kobe at a later date. I think that was great getting to know you. I mean, obviously there's a lot more, but I want to make sure that we get into your expertise and get to spotlight that. Again, getting us on track, sis.
On track. So, and anyone, if you haven't caught on already, you don't have to be any big diagnostician to realize that we are apparently
Polar opposites.
Nicole says we sound the same, but we could not be more opposite in terms of like in a lot of things. One being our focus. Like I have struggled my entire life with ADHD. Like from the youngest age, I had a tutor. I
Wow.
mean, like homework, like my parents say was like pulling teeth. Like they would dread me coming
Mhm.
home with homework because it'd be like, oh God, like here we go. Like, can we hire one of the teachers in the grade possibly who could come and like sit with her? Cause like they also like my parents were South African, so they didn't necessarily like know the same like ways that we were learning things.
And we had a
Right.
brother with autism. So
And
like
we had
they
a
didn't
brother
have
with
any
autism,
extra
so like
margin
he
in their
got
day.
Oh.
yeah.
He took all of the I mean,
So,
so
but
yeah.
my sister would come home from school, and my parents always say she'd be like, "I'm just so stressed. I have so much," and then like she'd shut herself in her room and like it'd be done in like 10 minutes, and like we just are so opposite like that. So it's just coming on the show today. It's so interesting that it's like we are from the exact same environment, same
Mhm.
thing. Like this girl could literally like sell her spit as like a better alternative to Adderall. Like I don't know what it is, but she has zero focus issues. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Now that I have a child with ADHD, I see it. But just to kind of ground us in, can you operationally define what ADHD is? Because I think that
Okay,
we have
BCBA, I like it. I see what you did there. Okay.
help us define what it is, and then we can talk about like how we address it. And I think like What I'm really excited to talk to you about after you define is some of these things that I actually see with my daughter that I believe I'm now learning are like textbook ADHD. I think it again, we think it means you're rambunctious and you jump around. There's also a lot of like triggers that ADHD kids have that I'm realizing that I'd love to dive into. But first, let's just operationally define it.
Okay, and then I'm gonna cut in there. You're gonna operationally define it, and then I'm gonna ask her how she decided to get into this from like typical ABA working in the space with with ASD.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't have the full DSM definition, but I personally also feel that the DSM is not a complete definition of ADHD, and hope that at some point it is updated to include things like rejection sensitivity and things. But essentially, there's three different types. So there's inattentive, which is primarily people who struggle to pay attention. I see with kids with inattentive ADHD a lot of executive functioning issues, and executive functioning is like the CEO of your brain. So it controls like your impulse control, your emotions, how you execute tasks, all of those things. It's not just like lists and planners and agendas. It's actually like overseeing how you kind of run your whole life.
And those also
And
are
then,
those also the kids who I so clearly have like vivid memories. Like we had like a tote tray to like carry from class to class. You know, like you put it underneath, and like those are the kids who have like papers like flying out, like and nothing.
yeah,
Is that those kids?
I think both can have those, but I do think kids who are inattentive often have that because they like, maybe they were so lost in their work and now it's time to transition that they just have to like shuffle it all
Like
back together.
I could so visualize that kid.
Yes. Yes. Likely, I would guess. I feel like, I always say I'm not qualified to diagnose, but I feel like I know it when I see it. And yeah, I would say probably.
So inattentive is one of the pillars. I think in pillars. Marketers think in like pillars that establish a brand foundation. And so this definition
Blech.
foundation, inattentive, which is probably the primary one that people think about. But I love how you mentioned rejection. I can't wait to get into that because that is exactly what I'm seeing. There's all these other things that people don't often talk about. These
Yes.
that are so definitive of, okay, so inattentive was the first.
Yep. The second is hyperactive impulsive. So
Okay,
it's like a
impulsive,
combined
okay.
name. So that's, I think, what a lot of people think of. And I think like my generation, so I don't know how old you guys are. I'm in my 40s, but
65
we knew of
to
80.
40.
Okay. I feel like I knew of my generation was more like there was always that one kid in the class who had ADD and was on Ritalin, and he could not sit still, and he was always calling out and getting in trouble and blurting out things like that. I feel like is what people used to think of as ADHD. And then, which like I would say, so the third one is a combination of inattentive and hyperactive. And that's where you see symptoms of both. And so like it can be really like I've known kids who you see really severe, they're a daydreamer and they're always on the go. Versus like I've also worked with kids who are just inattentive and they're not, you see how much I move my body? That's why I think I'm hyperactive, because I cannot sit still. They might be completely lost in this whole magical world, but they're not necessarily like all over the place with their body. They're just in this whole world inside their heads. I feel like it's taken a while to really, and the more, it's like repetition, the more clients I work with, the more different versions of ADHD I see, and the more I can identify the severity and the different symptoms that exist.
That's so true. It's interesting because, I mean, they're definitely I know my own self. I like definitely was more impulsive with things. Like with anything I do, I still am. Like if I want to make a decision, I'm gonna do it. If I want to book that flight, I'm gonna do it. If I think that's a cool business opportunity, I'm gonna do it. Like I'm not putting
I bought the URL already. I want you're just
like I own I think over 60 URLs of like impulsive businesses that I think of in that minute, and they're not being used. But it's so true. Like some kids are completely like, hello, like, are you there?
Yeah.
Anyone in there? Hello. Okay, I've told you to put your shoes on. Put your shoes on. Hello, shoes, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, but then there's some who are just like, you can't even get them to sit still.
Right. And you're like, can you put on your shoes? And they're not listening because they're like all the way halfway across the room by the time you finish the sentence. And it's not that they're not paying attention to you. It's that they're like still moving. Yeah.
It's fascinating because I guess like how like one diagnosis, but it could look so different, like topographically.
Yeah, that's kind of why I hope, like, I guess at some point there has to be a DSM-6, right? So hopefully at some point the diagnosis will evolve, because I think we're seeing they do all look different. And I guess some of it is that maybe I don't know, maybe this is just me speculating. Maybe it also somewhat has to do with personality and maybe how severe it is, but it's a dopamine issue. So they don't know if people with ADHD don't take in the dopamine that's available in their brains properly, or that they are low on dopamine. But it's basically it's a dopamine issue, and you need your neurotransmitters. They're like the chemical messengers in your brain. So you need those to go from one space to another. It's like having a bicycle messenger going from one space to another to deliver different messages. And so if you are low on dopamine, or you're not taking in those messages, your brain also develops differently. And so it may be what kids are exposed. There might be environmental factors. There might just be kind of, right? Like, we are also all born, like both of my kids, I feel like their personalities, I don't want to say are set in stone, right? Because that's a very fixed mindset, but like they are a little bit who they are. And I feel like they were born who they are, and they have very different personalities. And I see their ADHD come out in different ways, even though they likely have the same diagnosis and like maybe even may need the same medicine at some point.
It's behavior, bitches.
Hey guys, it's your favorite bitch, Liat here. Are you stressing about taking the BCBA or BCABA exam? Feeling like you don't know where to start? You got into this field, you're worried your program didn't prepare you so much, you're wondering how you're gonna get through grad school, then let alone take this test? Well, let me take that stress on for you. Over here at Study Notes ABA, this is what we do. We eat, breathe, sleep, thinking about the BCBA exam. I've been carrying around my Cooper book for the last 8 years so that you can chill. If you're getting ready to study and wondering what you could be doing, sign up for our live collective. It's 12 weeks, which is done over 24 classes. We meet twice a week. It's taught from actual BCBAs who have been there in your shoes studying for the exam. We make everything relatable, funny. You are actually going to enjoy the study process. And hold me to that. If you're not enjoying it, let me know. I'll be shocked. You get a study group, people who are studying the exact same thing, shared adversity. We could ask all your questions, and we take all the notes with you. You are going to have the most beautiful doodles by the end, and your Cooper book will seem way less scary. Are you worried about payment plans? We've got that too. We get what it's like being an RBT in the field. So stop stressing, start getting ready to pass the test, and go to studynotesaba.com/collectives, and we have it all there laid out beautifully for you. I mean, I know like in behavior, we don't typically like to use anything that's like mentalistic, like this person's stubborn, therefore they're doing it, whatever it is. But like the most clear example of that I see, so my sister's has twin girls, and one of them,
Okay.
and that is like the personality from the youngest age, the one who is like the ADHD one. I mean, her legs have been like kicking and flying since like the youngest age, where the other one's just like so happy to sit there and be like, I can't wait to be a mom one day, and I want to talk about marketing campaigns, and I'm like, again, like how are these girls from the same like
Womb.
Uterus. I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what were you were saying about
well, I wanted to know how you got into this. Like, that's the most common question. I think every single episode I say it. So everyone asks me, what else can I do with having a degree in, I'm a BCBA or I have a degree in behavior analysis. How did you decide to be like, let me take this to ADHD?
Do most people say that they just kind of ended up where they ended up?
Yeah,
I'm
it's the
curious.
exact same story. I can just like insert.
Because it's not, everything I feel like is like you open a door on purpose, but then you see it's like almost like opening a door to an amusement park, and then you see what you like and you see what you're drawn to. And some doors, like I feel like some of the things work out and some of them don't. I wasn't in the traditional medical model. I've never really like been in the traditional medical model for long periods of time, but I worked in public schools. So I feel like in public schools, right, you get non-autism diagnoses. So I had experience working with ADHD. I had experience working with kids with anxiety, with different things. And then I worked in a private school in New York City, a special education private school, and then later was the clinical director of their affiliated center. And we had a lot of kids with also rare genetic disorders. And so I feel like my skill set evolved to really focus on this like multidisciplinary collaboration and this multidisciplinary model, and the idea that like of looking beyond the autism diagnosis and not just like here's a problem, here's an intervention, but like here's a problem and here are all the contextual variables about this child. Like they can't cross their hands bilaterally, they can't do movements that don't ground their body in space, they have poor interoception, all that stuff. And so I feel like it was an easier jump to ADHD because I had all these experiences outside of autism already. But it's kind of by accident. If somebody referred me at some point to a client who was having emotional regulation issues, and so I started working with the family, and then she was later diagnosed with ADHD, and then I started taking more clients like this. I was doing private practice. And quite honestly, for me, it's a much more financially viable model. It looks more, like my competitors are like social workers, psychologists, speech therapists, occupational therapists. I'm not doing 40 hours of ABA with kids a week. I'm not overseeing RBTs. I'm doing the direct care like a speech therapist would or a social worker would. And so I also then when you work privately, like then my eggs aren't all in one basket. So I was kind of like, oh, this is nice. Like I'm picking up these kids where I'm doing this low dosage model, and then I have like 7 or 8 of them. And if one drops out, that's not my whole financial stability dropping out, that I've lost my one big client. And so it kind of worked for me. And at the same time, I was also navigating my son's ADHD diagnosis and seeing that we really struggled to find him. Like I got to a point where I was like, I can't be mom and your therapist anymore. Like we're done with emotion boot camps with mommy, because like I can't do this anymore. I feel like it's not healthy for me. It's not healthy for you. We've made a lot of progress, but like you need somebody else too. And finding somebody who was the right fit for him was really hard because ADHD parents, and I don't know, Talia, if you've experienced this, a lot of psychologists, there are great people. My son sees a social worker. She's fantastic. I adore her. I recommend her to so many people because I think she's so wonderful. But a lot of people say they understand ADHD and then they work with kids and they just expect kids to talk about their problems. And kids don't know how to talk. Like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Even at 11, he's like not that great at talking about his problems because he's a kid. And kids don't know what they don't know, and they don't know how to talk about things. And then they also a lot of my clients get referred to occupational therapy. But like a lot of OTs get to a point where they're like, okay, there's no motor issues here. We've dealt with the sensory issues, and now like it's behavioral, and we don't know what to do with the behavioral part. So there's this like weird gap. Like I started from my clients and from my experience as a parent seeing like, hey, there's this gap in providers who like really know what to do with this population. And now I feel like I have this like calling and like drive to fill that gap, because I was like, this has been great for me. I love what I'm doing. Other people need to be doing this. And I think the more I do it, the more I enjoy it. And so now it started like, now I'm even training people who work with autism to better understand ADHD, because the comorbidity is like 70% anyway. So I feel like it just has like snowballed over the years.
Which is interesting because, I mean, first of all, the one thing I always find fascinating when it's like a behavioral issue or anything within my own family, whether it's my own child, my own dog, my own nieces, I have no idea. Like it's like as if like anything I know is, like
yeah.
And so, and at first, like I'd hear my sister, saying like, "Oh, it's difficult with Ellie or whatever it is," and I'd be like, "Dude, it's because like you're annoying. Like if I was her, I'd also like you're so intense. Like you need to just be more chill and whatever it is." And then I started seeing more often, because I mean, the behavioral contrast, like when she's with me, which obviously it's different. I don't have to give the same demands, and
right.
she comes to
You get
sleep
to be
over
the
at
fun
my
aunt.
house on like a Friday night Shabbat dinner, and like I'm the cool fun Anne who has all the art supplies and like whatever it is, But I realize I'm like, whoa, like these really are like, there's like it's actually affecting like the family's functioning as a whole. Like no one like her other twin is affected because, and I can't help but compare. I have 2 dogs. I have Pavlov and Cooper.
Oh my God, I love it.
Pavlov is like the most I mean, the behavioral vet literally said they think he needs to be on Ritalin because like none of the anti-anxieties are working. But like
Do we put
Cooper,
dogs on Ritalin?
they
Is
want to put him on
can,
Ritalin. They're like,
can they put dogs on Ritalin? I
but
didn't
it's
even
like
know that was a
apparently it's
thing.
like the next level. Like if like gabapentin,
Okay.
fluoxetine don't work
Okay.
because of the impulsivity. Like he'll like snap at people, run out into traffic, whatever it is. I never got to that point with him. I kind of just like quit and just like when someone's around,
He is who he
talk
is.
them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. When someone's around, otherwise. But like I tell my sister the example the other day. I was like, it's really sad because so Pavlov gets in trouble. He does things. He'll nip at someone, but therefore, like sweet little Cooper, my other little French bulldog, she always has to go in the crate too because if he's in there alone, he'll be barking so aggressively unless she's in there with him. So like, and
Mm-hmm.
no one's allowed to pet Cooper because Pavlov's like so possessive and needs the attention. Like he'll be on your lap, and I'm like, the exact same thing is happening with your girls. Like no one can
Mm.
live. And Liv is, like,
Yeah.
so well behaved and, like, whatever on the side, like, okay. Like, Liv is not allowed to have sleepovers at my house if Ellie's in trouble. Like, Ellie got in trouble the other day, sent home from school, has a sign held up apparently upon pickup saying, "The school's holding me hostage." Right?
No. How old is she? How old are your
8,
twins?
But
8.
she's like
Oh my gosh.
she's like
I
a
love her already.
40-year-old in an 8-year-old's body. Like
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I feel like I could talk to her as, like, a friend. Like, she knows, like, too much going on with different
Yeah,
things, whereas
yeah.
her sister is more, like, innocent, whatever, but she's embarrassed by her sister. Like, Liv's embarrassed sometimes when Ellie's, like, having these tantrums in the class. But whatever it is, I had this realization. I was like, "Wait, okay, it's not just that, like, you're not a BCBA and you don't know how to handle your kid." I was like, "It's actually really, like, your entire family system." I could see it. Poor Liv. When Liv hasn't done anything, she's not allowed to have a sleepover either because if she does, you know what's gonna happen with Ellie?
Ellie's gonna get so pissed. And that's the perfect segue to one of her obsessions. And this is like, again, I think when you hear about ADHD, you think about the inattentive, you think about the hyperactivity, but there are these other, I don't know what you call them, but the obsession with justice, fairness.
Yes. Yes.
Like,
that is such a thing.
if her sister is able to sleep over and Ellie's not, it is as if, and it's like, girl, you got kicked out of school today. This is actually extremely fair that you are getting a consequence and your sister
Right.
doesn't. She obsessed like with being corrected. Like, God forbid the teacher tells her that, oh, actually that's pronounced this way. She's obsessed with
I
being
already
right.
know that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And so what are those like called? Are those like secondary?
And is that common?
Yeah.
I mean, so I just had a client over the weekend and I adore her. She doesn't have a diagnosis and she's like late middle school. She's been having a lot of anxiety. And at the end of the session, she starts telling me how they went out to dinner and the news was on and she just really is struggling with how chaotic the world feels. Like without making it political, she's really struggling with how chaotic the world feels right now and how
Same.
unsafe things feel.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I was like, I don't know, you go to the doctor and they're like, is your anxiety higher? And you're like, if I say no, what do you think of me? Like, like, yes,
Yeah.
everybody's, it's very chaotic. And it raises her level of anxiety, which is now causing emotional outbursts more frequently because she cannot put aside this like sense of injustice on this global level that's happening. And I was like, man, girl, that's so hard. And like, you're in elementary school, like you got a whole lifetime ahead of you.
Yeah.
That's like a very heavy thing to be managing. And so I think like I see that a lot. I think also with kids who maybe have a higher IQ and very, like people with ADHD tend to be incredibly intelligent, but it's not universal. But I feel like kids who are more tuned into things tend to sense that injustice.
Yeah, her teachers have said that she likely has an extremely high IQ, so we're getting her tested next week. But it's similar, but
I
that's
thought
why
she
it's
did get like 96%.
I mean, she's 98% in like the state tests, but that's not an IQ test, but like it would
Mm-hmm.
indicate. But yeah, it's like, it's true. It's this emotional intelligence and like being clued into things past her, what like a regular 8-year-old is an ignorant bliss, which is a gift in and of itself. She's
Yes.
never had that. She's just completely she's like clued in. And so this justice thing, is it tied to like is it the emotional intelligence, or is it just like the rigidity of like wanting rules because you believe that like what's the obsession with this fairness, do you think? Like, is it, or do you think it's just being
Well, I mean, if I were to look at it with a little bit of ABA but even though I told you it's out the window with my own niece, it's like, first of all, I mean, a big part of it is which I was this kid also in terms of I don't know about the justice thing, but with the last word. Like my sister the other day was
Hmm.
like so every Friday night my family has Shabbat dinner together, and every Friday night is a
it
blow
could be a
up.
reality
It could
show
literally be a reality show. It's my 29-year-old brother with an intellectual disability and autism, and Ellie, the 8-year-old girl
with ADHD.
Hmm.
with
They fight.
ADHD. They fight. Gal's like cognitive level is like lower than my son who is just turned 5.
Right.
But Gal thinks that like and so Gal will do things to bother her, and she has the emotional understanding that like Gal is different. If he does like hit
Hmm.
you or something, you could just walk away. But because she has to have this last word, being like, "But he poked me," right?
Yes.
And it's like, "Okay, but whoever poked you, that's fine." But Gal, we know Gal does things differently. Just walk away, right?
Yep.
It's also almost like an impulsivity of like, "You are not gonna end this sentence, I am going to." Which,
Yes.
by the way, that was me. Like, my sister the other day was like, "This is the craziest thing." I just remember, like, you as a kid and dad always being what did dad say?
You have to have the last word, my girl.
"I should
Like you
just
would
slap
just
you."
mouth off at him, and you would literally be getting yourself in more and more shit, and then you'd have to say something else, another zinger, another, and I was just like, oh,
And I felt, like, brilliant too. I think you also kinda feel like, I'm too smart for this, maybe a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
she is really smart. Like, the thing is,
but it's like,
you could talk to her about, like, the most complex issues.
yeah, but
It's like to have that final reinforcement of, like I think
like
that's
I
part of
have
the
the mic drop.
impulsivity,
Everyone wants the mic, like you want the mic drop because you think that like,
Yeah.
but
and I'm like, "Ellie, that's not really a mic drop when it's Gal, he's 29 years old, like, this is not a fair fight, and, like,
Right.
stop."
Right. It's also the dopamine too, right? Because I think a lot of kids are oppositional, or like my older son will needle my younger son, and like when he's anxious or something, because his like brain is seeking dopamine.
oh,
And not like, to your point about siblings and affecting each other, I've worked a lot with my younger son to be like, you have to walk away, you have to go into another room. And so like I do a lot of like when I start to see that happening, I'll say to my little guy, I'll be like, why don't you go upstairs and go pick a book? Like I just got to separate you, because he's not going to stop. It's like if you're hungry, you're seeking food, right? It's like if you need dopamine, you're seeking how to get the dopamine. And so you're going to keep going the way that you've gotten it in the past. It's like a principle of reinforcement. Like it's automatically reinforcing because there's a chemical change in your brain. And so the way you've gotten it in the past has been reinforced because you've gotten it. And so then you keep doing it.
That
And so
makes
like
so
for
much are you
me,
calling it needling?
needling, yeah, he
Y
like, huh,
That's
I
exactly
don't know.
remember that night that, like, Kobe, my 5-year-old, my sister has also a 4-year-old little girl, they're best friends. They had, like, built a
Oh, that's so
fort
cute.
at the at while we were all having dinner. Finally, they were quiet. Like, her daughters also, like, their s squeal is, like, next level. They were finally quiet, right? Having fun. Ellie decides that she has to go lay in the middle of their fort. Like, "Nope,
Yeah.
I just wanna lay here," and it's like, "Come on, you see they're happy finally."
ugh,
And
yeah,
then Remy's
Yeah.
like,
She's hungry for
"Yeah!"
dopamine.
It's like, "Ellie, come on, like, there's so many places you could go lay. Go lay on the couch, go lay this. You could go and it's like, that is what it is. It's like you're a shit stirrer. I mean, I am that still though. Like, I get bored, I'll, like, wanna stir some shit at work, right? Trigger Martha or something, get Julia hot and bothered.
well, also, but speaking of dopamine, because I'm obsessed with dopamine, you know that, sis. I'm actually low dopamine. You know that's why I get like my I don't know. I have this like this these leg spasms that are tied to low dopamine. Anyway, they wanted to put me on dopamine medication, and they were like, "You might get into gambling and want more sex." My husband was like, "Okay, perfect." But
He's
how?
like, "We could trade stocks together and have sex. This is amazing."
Oh my god, that would be like his dream. But anyway, that makes me think, because obviously, like, all of this digital addiction is very much tied to dopamine as well. Do we think that there is any increase in inability to pay attention or inattentiveness with also, like, kids being, like, addicted to their devices and getting all of this instant gratification? Like, is there some correlation, we think, with just how our kids are being raised with this, like, digital interaction nonstop?
Yeah. I mean, what I think is harder for kids with ADHD is that like then they get their dopamine from the screens, and then when they come off of the screen, it's like, like
Yeah.
just a stark, it's like going from air conditioning to a hot room to a hot outside or whatever. Like I feel like it's just such a contrast that like their brains struggle to adapt to it. And I also think it like it's taking away learning opportunities. So I think whereas like previous generations learned through trial and error and learned to develop frustration tolerance, everything's so like quick and instant now that it lends itself to like reinforcing an ADHD brain,
Right.
but not necessarily like in an adaptive way. Like you
Mhm.
think like, oh, the world is set up now for ADHD brains, but I feel like it's set up to like,
Make the stakes even higher. Like, you have to do even more to, like, get the hit because
yeah,
yeah.
because it like you now have experienced what it feels like when you're like watching Cocomelon, which is like
Right.
everywhere. And I mean, TV is totally different now, also. I think that that's like a huge issue that like
Yes.
TV is so like kids' TV. I saw like some meme recently. Actually, I also showed a client recently. I had the Slinky song. Do you guys know the Slinky song? Like Slinky, Slinky. Again, I can't sing, so
Well,
No.
take
Alan,
my
insert
version
the
with
song, please.
It's Slinky, it's Slinky. For fun, it's a wonderful toy.
it's like a commercial. I think it's from the 70s or 80s, and I had it stuck in my head for some reason. And I was singing it with a client, and she's like, "What are you singing?" So I showed her the video of the Slinky commercial, and it's
This is
like
the lamest commercial
gray.
I've ever seen.
She was like, "I'm so glad I'm alive today." And I was like, "I don't know. I think it's a lot harder now because I just feel like your brains are saturated. I think
Yes.
they're just
Well, even,
they're
like,
like
I know that,
yeah.
we were taught, like, someone was telling me they make their children watch, like, shows from the '90s, like Saved by the Bell, or because the
Mhm.
frame rates were just slower. And
Yes.
we're just like, literally nowadays, like, the frame rates are like you're expecting something new and so it's actually better if your kids want screen time to at least have it, like, it's like giving them
A slowdown.
like, instead of giving them meth, you're giving them coke. I don't know what the I don't know
Yeah.
what the
Well, coke is an upper, so I feel like
like,
it's like
yeah,
maybe weed.
but,
I
like,
don't know.
it really is different, like, the production even now, just to keep kids, like, on this drip of freneticism a little bit.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
BCBA in me here is hearing that, okay, so let's say you have a kid. I mean, all of us are seeking dopamine in some way, right? And especially like if one of the things, we try match the intervention to whatever the function of the behavior is, right? Typically.
Mhm.
So like if someone wants attention, we want to give them an appropriate way to get attention, whatever it is. But now let's say like a lot of us parents as well, like I know I'm addicted to my phone, like in a disgusting way,
Mhm.
like to the point that like I
Same.
will walk into walls or like, like
Yeah.
I walked into a game at Chuck E. Cheese yesterday and I was like, "What the fuck? What were you doing there?" So oftentimes we're providing, let's say we have this kid who's like, "Okay, we need them to like settle down in this doctor's office. We need them to be quiet at the restaurant." We're giving them an iPad, right?
Yeah.
It is essentially working in that moment as like essentially like a DRI. It's like, if they're actively watching, they can't be like running around the restaurant. But we're
Right.
not actually meeting the function. If someone, let's say, is like, this kid has a lot of energy. Like they need to be doing sprints outside, potentially. I'm just saying.
Right.
Something, whatever
Yeah,
it is.
that's a good example.
So like,
Mhm.
but now we've given them an iPad, which isn't actually matching like the function at hand. They just like for a while had this band-aid on it so that they're not jumping or whatever it is in that moment. But as soon as that
Mhm.
iPad is taken away, first of all, I mean, I don't even want to get into like the actual like withdrawal or like,
Right.
of because I feel it myself when I like put Instagram down and I find myself back on it. But we're not even necessarily like matching the function if we are handing over these other distractors to not actually deal with like what's at hand, right? Like they still have that energy. Just because we gave them an iPad doesn't mean they don't need time on the playground.
Right, which is a good point because then and now it's like let's say like you run with that example, you go out to dinner, you give the kid the iPad what they really needed to move. Now you get home and they still need to move and now bedtime is a challenge. And now they're fighting with you at bedtime or running up and down the stairs like a crazy person at bedtime because they needed to move 4 hours ago and it actually can also make it worse because it's like now you haven't moved. Now you needed to move then, and now you also have been sedentary for extra time. So now you need to move even more. And now your brain also was used to getting a certain level of dopamine and isn't getting it anymore. So it's like this compounding effect of like you didn't meet the function and like you kind of also like added almost like a drug to the equation that they're now coming off of.
Right.
And it's really hard. I think.
And I think like us as
yeah.
parents use it as like negative reinforcement ourselves. Because to me, like if I have a kid who is like they're all screaming in that moment, I'm like, oh my God. Okay,
Throw the
everyone
iPad at
Yeah.
them.
yeah, like
Just
everyone
throw it
just
at
take an iPad. Just take it. Take it. Like I don't right?
Yeah.
And then you have that relief. So what do you do in the future? You do that same thing again. So your behavior
Right,
is
'cause you
negatively
got
reinforced. You remove that aversive sound of them screaming everywhere. But you're going to deal with it at some point. You're just delaying it when they still have that energy later on. And now it's bedtime.
Mhm.
So it
Right.
just
And like they can't go outside. Like you can't go get out that energy. You've missed the window of opportunity has been replaced by the screen. And so they've also now missed the opportunity to regulate themselves properly and to like learn how to regulate themselves properly. It all kind of compounds and my kids have screens in my house, but I do like I would say like they're not allowed to use screens as like a coping mechanism. So if we don't use screens when we're in a bad mood. You can't like go numb yourself on an iPad because I just feel like it does the same thing is that like you're not actually dealing with the feeling, you're avoiding it. And when you get off of the screen, the feeling is still there and often you then explode because now you've lost the screen and you still feel that way. I'm very careful like my kids aren't allowed on Roblox because I think it's too much.
Oh, I need to get
And
Roblox.
yeah, it's really, I don't know, Roblox is like a wild world and I
really want to just rip it out. I know she'd hate
Yeah.
it, but it's too much.
Yeah.
doesn't it cost money too? Don't people like ask for
Yeah, I don't buy her Robux.
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta say, that's one area that your kids know.
My kids know mommy is frugal with them. That's the one
which
thing
is
that I
good.
hold the line.
Like her kids, by the way, it's just a side parenting note, which I think is incredible. I don't do it. No, it is. Her kids, they really want something. She's like, okay, just here, I'll let you take a picture with it. So I remember for your birthday. Like her entire like photo album is like kids with like literally
Oh my
like
God.
an SPCA commercial, like with their like sad face, like
Yeah. So I did that once with my 11-year-old and I never brought him the thing and I still get shit about it to this day. Like speaking of justice sensitivity, he's like hyper focused on this like robot I didn't buy him from Barnes and Noble when he was like 6. And it was COVID. I don't know. It was a lot of money. I said, we'll take a picture and someone will get it for you for Hanukkah. And nobody ever got it for him. And I don't even know where it is. Yeah.
They love taking a photo with it. We can even print an album of all of the toys that they wanted. They can see them in the album.
okay.
Yeah, it backfired for me.
It's behavior, bitches.
Are you a BCBA now and you are sad because you hate your job? Are you thinking, I worked so effing hard and here I am, dreading Monday? Well, you're not the only one. We get that message all the time and we decided to do something about it. Welcome our newest baby, Pair ABA by STUDYNOTESABA. What is this? Well, we pair you with jobs that you actually don't hate. Imagine that. Imagine going to work on Monday and being excited about it. Imagine working somewhere where you're appreciated, you're paid well, they're doing ethical practice, and you love what you do. Well, that's not impossible because we have formed Pair ABA where we talk to clinics that we would actually want to work at. We're not going to send you anywhere. We are assessing these clinics to see, are they doing the good work? Are they not telling you one thing and then having you do another thing once you sign on? If you're concerned that you're not happy or you're feeling unsettled where you are, don't settle. Don't settle in relationships. Don't settle in work. Realize your value. Let us help you find a job where you are happy. all you need to do is head on over to pairaba.com. The response effort is low. Fill out the form so we could help you find job options near you. If you're a clinic and you think you're good enough for us to place at, also head over to pairaba.com. And we will see, are you good enough for our badass BCBAs who we protect? Go check it out, pairaba.com. Love you, mean it. But I do want to know, so like, you've had the training to become a BCBA, all the functions of behavior, looking at, the 4 functions, whatever it is. Do you feel that the same, like, you could apply all of these principles the same way that you would as if you're like, when you were training with individuals with ADHD? The reason I ask this is because, yes, I don't know if I'm becoming like less of a radical behaviorist. Like a couple years ago, I'm like, oh, I'm a behaviorist. Yes, there's always a function. This, antecedent behavior consequence. I've seen like it's a little more nuanced than that. There's more things going on. Like I think you'd be silly not to include some like other, like
Chemical, cognitive.
like yeah, like
Yeah.
if you're like I don't think you're working smarter if you're like completely doing it alone without like, whether you have like a psychologist involved looking at certain like I do see that
Right.
there are like certain like deeper elements as well as to what you just see. But do you find that like your training as, going in to be a BCBA who probably was trained to work with individuals on the spectrum, like generalizes the same to individuals with ADHD?
There's some parts that I think do. I think that there's like certain technologies or tactics that we use that I use universally, and things like perceived choice and parent like rapport building I think is even more important with people with ADHD. I feel
Yeah.
like because of the like justice sensitivity and the like heightened sensory, I feel like a lot of people with ADHD I know often like describe like vibes, like they kind of like pick up on a person very quickly, and I find like these are kids who really have to like me to want to learn from me. And so that pairing piece becomes even more important.
Julia.
Hmm?
Julia was just saying,
Julia, who works in the office.
Julia, come show your face as the poster child of ADHD.
She and I talked in my pre-interview. I was like, "Are you going to join the podcast episode?"
First of all, my sis gets jealous because like I think Julia is like my
Jealous?
adopted younger sister. Not jealous, sis, but I do
Jealous. It's
love
just like
Jules.
you use her for all your work, but you don't pay her, I
No,
do.
but she's my bestie. But anyway, Jules was literally saying, she's like, yeah, if I didn't like a teacher, like I didn't care to learn from
Here
her.
she
Wait,
is.
where are you?
Put
Where are
yourself
you?
right
Yeah.
in front here, Jules. Right here to the middle.
Hi.
Okay, but no,
Good to see you again.
we were literally talking about. She's like, if I didn't like a teacher, like I just like couldn't listen. Like and I'm like, dude, I was so motivated by the A. I don't give a shit if I don't like you. I will listen to you and leverage whatever I need to get the A.
Yeah.
But your brain, you're like, I don't even listen if I don't like you.
Right.
So I definitely think, and Ellie's like that. If she thinks someone's not cool, that's why she could not work with this one therapist we got her. She's like, she just wasn't cool. And I'm like,
Oh my
I
god.
don't give a shit. She's really well regarded in the
No,
psychology.
that's the same thing.
Yeah.
One of my best friends, I yell at, has the same problem. She's like, it has to be, and it's like sounds so crazy. And at first I was like, this is so, she's like, if they're not like decent looking, put together, my daughter won't listen. I'm like, how disgusting is this? Tell her that she needs,
Superficial as hell. Get over it.
I'm like, she's like the best psychologist, whatever there is. And it's like,
That rapport building is important. And so
yeah, I think you could still pair and not be hot. You've got to like have the right fidgets.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that.
When I did the pre-interview with Nicole, when you said that, it hit because that was a very big issue before I was medicated. And it wasn't really about like if someone was cool. It was just if someone felt, I guess,
you could respect them.
respect. Like if I felt like a teacher was too young, it wasn't like I was encouraging it, but I just felt like they didn't have control over the classroom, aka like
Yeah.
have control over me.
Like substitutes.
Yeah, like it was like a very respected teacher who like was on maternity leave, so they just had this new teacher come in.
Like you thought she was a joke.
Yeah, I didn't take her seriously, and then she created a behavior plan for me.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
I guess that did work because it was like so embarrassing. She would have to fill out she had to fill out a form of how I performed that day, and I would have to bring it back to my mom to sign.
But you're like literally
Oh my
the best.
No, but this is a success story of ADHD. By the way, take
Yes.
Julia.
Oh,
By
right.
the way, Julia, what is Julia's role now?
Oh,
Her
right.
role is literally having ADHD is what we need. She's in charge of all creativity. She has 20 projects going on at once. Anything that like needs to come to fruition, like she has the visual idea, like she's using her skills where it needs to be. I feel like I'm the same way. Like doing study notes ABA, I'm literally using all the skills that I still have. Like my ADHD is my superpower. Like it is the
Yes.
entire brand. It is. If you look downstairs, it looks like a complete mess. But like when you have, it's just, I think it's really difficult when you're young, when you need to be on like a school trajectory or whatever it is, when you don't give a shit. Like someone who doesn't have ADHD, you don't understand how painful it is to sit in a history class that you don't give a flying fuck about. Like it
Yes.
actually, I get pain. Like I truly start to feel like I'm so uncomfortable. The same goes for CEUs. If I'm in a CEU that I hate, I'm angry as I'm
Yes,
sitting there.
I feel that way too. I used to feel that way with talk radio. My parents would listen to like 10 wins, and I'd be like, I'm gonna die. Like this will
It's
kill
an
me. The
actual
talk radio will
anger.
kill me.
It's
Yeah.
an anger. It's like, it's not like I could just sit here. Like if my dad decides to like bring something to the Shabbat dinner table that like seems like completely like
Oh my God, you literally, like, he brings a story he wants to tell, and he will bring literature that is like 7 pages long and he wants to read it. And like, I'll just deal. You, like, she'll have to go to the bathroom, then you find her passed out on the couch. It's like, just
I like I can't have the kids have
Like,
the kids playing
just
alone. That's so irresponsible.
power through it.
No, it's like it's an actual like aversion that like
Mhm.
that, did you feel that at all?
Yeah, I did, but I wanted to add something else. I don't know if you guys spoke about it yet. I had to like step out for a second, but you also told me about, I forget what it's called, where I had such problems writing.
Oh, dysgraphia?
Dysgraphia. Have you heard of dysgraphia?
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Oh my God, I had no,
Yeah.
and I had to look it up, and it's literally me. I had such issues writing. It was a horrible thing. I had to get extra time when it came to writing. I literally thought I wouldn't be able to get a job because I didn't know how to
Wow.
write.
Wait, you always catch the spelling mistakes though.
It was just
You really
essays.
improved.
I like couldn't. My dad always said I would get to the point at the end, like after my entire essay.
You are that storyteller. Julia is up.
Yeah.
But now I remember when I first got my job, I was so scared to write an email, which is now funny with ChatGPT. But my dad said that's actually like probably in my benefit because no one really wants to read a long email.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that.
And
I
was
agree
like,
with that. And it's
wow, I'll never have
Yeah.
to write this long paper again. But that was,
Yeah.
if anyone who's young listening thinking that they can't get a job with ADHD,
Julia will hire you.
Yeah.
there are
Well-
roles with that are good for whatever gifts you have, I guess.
Yeah, well, and that's what's so hard about being a child with ADHD, because like you said, like schools are like you do science, you do social studies, you do math, you do English, but then you become an adult, and if you didn't like science, how often are you contacting science? Like maybe you need to
Right.
know a little bit if you are going to the doctor, but like, you know, you're not really dealing with science anymore. And so like I feel like being a kid with ADHD is really challenging because you're forced to be in situations that we are not forced to be in as adults. And even like getting along with other kids, like I have cultivated a whole world. Like I am in private practice. I don't work for anyone else because I always say that like I joke that I don't work well with others, but like I also don't like to be bossed around and I like don't like to be told what to do. So I've created a whole world that works for me and what I need. And I don't work with people whose values don't align with me. But like when you're 12,
that's what happens when you're an adult. Like you realize like,
Yeah.
whoa, I don't have to be friends with this person anymore just because our parents were friends. Like things like that.
right.
Like,
Or because we're in English class together.
yeah.
Exactly. That's literally what
Yeah.
I talk about.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Well, foreplay to that. So
Foreplay.
Yeah.
one, I actually have 2 points. I know your alarm went off and you're very focused and on time for things, but something that I have also, you know, I've seen people posting online. I've had, like when I said I was doing this episode, parents reached out. They said that's something that they see as a theme, and it just happened to also be a hot theme in our family recently. Hashtag the printer is lying.
Mm.
Is this something that you see? Obviously, the same way when you talk with autism, if you've seen one kid with autism, you've seen one kid with autism.
One kid
And I
with
think the
autism.
same is
Yeah.
also for ADHD. But I have seen the theme of lying coming up more than once.
Yes.
Can you talk to this?
I do, but I also feel like I didn't answer your last question about do I use the 4 functions of behavior? And I want to say that if I think it's dopamine seeking, like attention, if a kid is being mean or nasty or a class clown to get attention, they're also getting automatically reinforced. And so there might be other things. Like that's I feel like the difference in ADHD. Like you might be able to give that kid like headphones or tell them to take a walk and they can get the same dopamine because it's not actually truly attention. Like yes, they want attention, but it's because the attention feeds their brain.
Right.
So I feel like I was like, I want to mention that because I feel like that's the biggest difference I see, especially with the functions of behavior. And then like you approach it totally differently because ADHDers are so sensitive to like rejection and feedback and criticism that I feel like interventions have to consider how somebody's going to respond.
That for sure.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
definitely like,
Eggshelling.
you're always like,
Yeah.
my
Mhm.
sister, like, I always laugh because she'll be like, hey, girl, good morning. And I see her like trying to be like so cool. Like, am I going to get yelled at today? Am I not? Like, hey,
Yeah.
hon. Hey, hon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's weird how you do that. She's like, what? I'm like, you don't talk like that.
But
Right.
technically I do.
But
'cause I'm
She's so
eggshell.
scared.
yeah. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. And then the lying, yes. So I think there's a lot of shame. ADHDers have a lot of shame. I don't know if you felt that way, but I think that there's also like an impulse control piece. So a lot of people with ADHD may do something impulsively and then they realize it was a mistake. And so now they're lying to cover up the mistake. And now that's becoming that like catches you. So then you keep lying and then you keep trying to cover it up. And I feel like I also think if you punish lying, and this is like, I guess, a tip for parents, I really discourage punishing lying because, and like, and I also discourage punishing when they tell the truth. Like, really encourage kids, like, you will get in less trouble if you tell me the truth than if you lie to me. Because if you are punished, if your kid comes home and they're like, hey, I punched another kid today and you're like, how dare you? How did you do that? They're going to come home and they're going to be like, everything was fine and dandy. And then 3 weeks later, the principal's going to call you and be like, hey, Nicole's been punching kids every day this week. You're going to be like, why did you tell me nothing happened when you've been punching everybody for weeks? And that, like it's a lot worse. And so like, I really encourage parents to try to keep those lines of communication open and to first like take in the information before you like render a punishment or do something like that. Like, thank you so much for telling me the truth. I really appreciate it. I'm going to think about this. We'll go from here. We're going to figure out what to do about this together. Because also like a lot of times it's like things kids can't help, right? Like maybe they punched somebody. Like I had a kid who, like grabbed another kid and it wasn't appropriate and it wasn't okay, but it was impulsive. And I feel like at least he told his parents.
Mhm.
And so then you can work with that. And I can be like, ooh, that's a situation where you had nothing else to do. So then you got silly. So like we actually need something for you to do in those situations. So
Like
like now let me
antecedent
work with your
skills or
teacher.
something.
Yeah. Like let me work with your teacher. So instead of in the lines, like, oh, he's getting in trouble in the lines, like he's now responsible for holding the door or he carries something to classes between classes or has a fidget with him so that he's not grabbing other kids because a punishment isn't going to work anyway. Like, I don't know, Liat, if you were punished, but like punishing lying or punishing when they do tell you the truth for ADHDers often isn't effective anyway.
No, I'm just, this reason I'm smiling the whole time is because, like,
Yeah.
first of all, it's been Passover and like we observed the whole thing. So, like, we have been on essentially like a technology free, like, Groundhog's Day with like my sister's family, my family, Kobe and I, and like my parents and like my
Mm-hmm.
brother who lives with them still, like every day, like all day. And like ready to like just like we're all like we've had enough. But more recently, Ellie at my parents' house had a friend over and they locked themselves in the back bedroom of the house, which is also where a printer is. Okay.
Okay.
And like it's like my mom goes and knocks like, hey, whatever. They're like, you can't come in, we're busy, we're playing, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Whatever. Didn't think anything of it. Later, I guess like they leave the house later. My parents go in the room and there's like the printer, like colorful powder all over the floor, and the printer is like open. Okay.
Oh my God.
And so my dad's like, Ellie broke our printer, right? She was the one locked in there.
Right.
So he calls my sister and is like, hey, like Ellie. So he asked her and she's like, I didn't do it. And he's like, what? You're the only one in there. So then my dad tells my sister, and she's like, well, that's not cool. Like, she was in there. Like, she's like, Ellie, like, just tell me, like, was it you? So then Jethro, who, like, by the way, her husband is like the sweet, like, she knows that, like, she could do no wrong by him. So he asked her, like, Ellie, it's really not cool. Tell me about this printer. So, like, the final thing, by the way, like, I am Ellie's number one. Like, Ellie thinks
Yeah.
and she is also like a daughter. Like, I have the most sensitive soft spot for Ellie. So when she comes to my house, Ellie later, I'm like, so Ellie, like we're chilling, we're actually like doing some art. I'm like, so like, what happened with the printer? You know, like I think that I am gonna be the one to get it out. You know?
Yeah.
She's like,
At this
what
point,
about the
she's-
punto? I'm like, her R's are just the cutest. What about the punto? I'm like, I don't know. It was like broken. Did you do it? It's totally fine if you did. Like, you know, girl,
I'd love to buy a new printer for you,
I was
Ellie.
like seriously, not a big deal. Like, just like if it happened by accident, you could tell me. You know, like I have your back. Like literally, even if you like hurt someone and you don't want anyone to know, like you could tell me. I'm your auntie. Like whatever.
Right.
She's like, she goes into the biggest fit. Why is everyone blaming me for the pointer? I didn't do the pointer. How did she say it?
I started to think that maybe she didn't.
No, I also was like, there's no way
I'm
that she
being
did this.
gaslit.
Like,
Like
to the
she's
point.
So
Like going
Yeah.
on this, and I'm like, Ellie, like literally, you know, not a big deal. Like I've whatever. Net, nothing. She won't say anything about it. Now comes.
So you don't know.
No.
Oh, there's
Comes
more.
the Passover Seder. So time has passed in between people. My dad is like a real jokester, whatever it is. So the other day he's like, Ellie, thank you so much. She's like, why? Like completely unrelated. I got a new printer and I'm obsessed with it. It is amazing. She's like, why do I care? Okay, whatever. I don't care, whatever. So then she sleeps over the other night. I like on Passover. And so he's like, Ellie, like this is at the meal. So obviously she's like settled down with it more. Like he's also like, he's ADHD. I am. We're all shit stirrers. Everyone's been around each other for days, like without electricity, like whatever. He's like, Ellie, so when you slept over last night, which room did you sleep in the back? Did you sleep in the room with the printer or without the printer? Because there's like 2 guest bedrooms. She's like, why you care? He's like, I just want to know. Like, it's a way to like identify the room. Which one were you in? She's like, one with the punta. And he's like, oh, okay, just wondering. She's like, but why do you care which one it was? He's like, well, how else would you identify the rooms to make them different? She's like, oh, well, one has a twin bed, one has a queen bed, like, you know, going through different things.
Yeah.
And eventually, it was crazy. She still has not admitted this. But near the end, she said, she turned it and said,
I don't even remember.
It was something that this is going on, and we're all waiting for like her like freak out a little bit.
Freak out.
Like we're all like,
because printer is now a trigger word for her. But now we've desensitized.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we slowly like we're shaping like okay.
You're just gonna keep saying it. Yeah.
She said something. She's like, I don't know. Why don't you go check the printer? And it like turned around, and we're like, what the hell? Like, is she admitting? But like, she still won't. So it was just like, that was that. But the one thing I do like to do as a special ed teacher and a, you know, I know that a lot of times when we'd have IEP meetings, we'd often like have a picture of the student that we're talking about. And so Ellie actually made a little video to share this morning that I want to share. So Ellie, we're going to be speaking to an expert on ADHD today. And you have ADHD, right? We got you diagnosed. What does it feel like to live with ADHD? What is it like in a classroom? What kind of things trigger you?
People talking when I'm talking, or just people talking when you're not supposed to. And people say like, did he hear that? So, and I listen to the words more carefully, and I can hear like every sound. Even if there's a million sounds going on, I can hear every sound that's like annoying, and it overwhelms my head, and sometimes it feels like I'm gonna explode my head, and it hurts. It
feels like it's gonna explode your head. What about the medicine we got you on? Any help with that? Do you feel any difference when you're on the medicine?
Kinda. But then I stopped taking it because it was interfering with my other medicines.
Okay, and then if you had a question, any question for the most expert person in ADHD, what would you like to ask them?
Why do people with not ADHD like care more? Like basically when my friend was reading, like she was very, like she talks really quietly, and everybody when she was talking to you was like reading like young man lady, and everybody was like, I can't hear you. And then I said, you can't, if you guys are screaming loud when she's reading, because then it doesn't help anymore. And then you're like, it's just she's being so quiet. And then I was like, everybody's turn, I was like this to people so they get their respect that they need. And then on my turn, everybody was talking and there was nobody to stand up for me.
I think your question is, you're very, very, to you, respect and fairness is very important. Mm-hmm. Right? Even more than for other people. And you want to understand maybe why? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'd love an answer to that.
I like the answer to that.
An answer?
I don't know.
And also, apparently, one last thing is, apparently ADHD is also a superpower. Do you know that? So let's have her answer. Maybe, do you want to ask her? Would love to know what those superpowers are.
Yeah.
So say that.
I would like to know what those superpowers are.
Okay. Cheers to ADHD.
Cheers.
I'm obsessed with her. She's so cute.
She's so cute. That's what.
She's so cute. I'm obsessed. I noticed she was chewing on the straw the whole time. I feel like that's like my kids. And myself, I chewed on pens.
Oh,
Like I feel like in the 80s and 90s, that's what you chew on.
that was my
'cause,
thing.
like,
I broke 68 brackets over my 1.5 years of having braces because I chewed on things so
Oh my god.
heavily.
Yep. Yeah, I can believe it because I feel like you need that stimulation.
Yeah.
She would do good at school. Maybe chewing on gum might help her feel stimulated.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, so let's answer that. Let's just end with that final question. What superpower is it that kids with ADHD have?
I think kids with ADHD, and it was so clear in the video, are much more empathetic people. Every kid that I work with has the biggest heart and can really understand. There's a lot of things that they might be particular about, so therefore other people might have things they're particular about. And I think they work really hard. Like she even said, she was like, why do people talk over this girl? Not like, why are people yelling at her? Because I think she has this deep empathy and innate understanding that different things might be hard for different people, and to recognize that and to try to accommodate it too. I think like people with ADHD, I think like really want to support others, which I just like, that's like one of my favorite things about the kids that I work with.
That's so true, actually. Like I always like think it's so cool because I mean, so many young kids want to be cool, right?
Yeah.
But like anytime that like, I'm always fascinated about whether like I'm bringing her to like a, like a special needs event that I'm doing or this and that. She has no problem like hanging out, with someone her age, like, who is like, you could tell is completely different or like doing
Yeah.
something that seems weird. Like she's like, oh, I get it. They probably just wanted this. And it's like, it's so
Yeah.
kind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that they show the kindness to the world that they also need for themselves. And I feel like she even said, she's like, I don't understand why people are yelling at her and why people yell at me. Like she could choose to yell also, but she chooses to be kind. And I think that's the ADHD brain and that emotional sensitivity.
I have like the most special place for Ellie. She is like, and I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Nicole, thank you so much for coming on today and
Yeah.
sharing. I mean,
great
I
to be
think
here.
everyone knows someone with ADHD.
Where
Yep.
can they find
Or
you
is
if they
someone.
want to learn more from her?
Where can they find you?
Yeah, so my website is NicoleStewartBCBA.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, or I am on Instagram, although I'm not actively making new content, but it is a 2026 goal for me at mom_the_behaviorist.
Mom_the.
Those will all be in the show notes. It
Yes.
makes it much
And
easier.
I'm
Yes.
going to follow you on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. It's my favorite platform.
Yeah. Same. I feel like I can handle LinkedIn. I can't handle the rest. So baby steps.
Thank you
Baby
so
steps.
much. Guys, you know where you can find us, behaviorbitches.com. If you have any topics you want us to cover, you want to say something nice, please go leave us 5-star reviews wherever you listen, whether it's YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Like we live for that. And that's why I keep going. And you can find us on Instagram or TikTok at Behavior Bitches Podcast. And that's all we have for you today. So as always, love ya.
Mean it.
It's behavior, bitches.
Hey, Behavior Bitches besties. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time and stopping and watching all of our content on YouTube. We put a lot of effort into putting these podcasts into YouTube. That means I have to get dressed for the day, do my makeup, and actually show up when I used to come in looking completely homeless to record because no one could see my face. This being said, for us to keep doing this, we live for your subscription. So please do not forget to subscribe to our channel and like and leave us comments and love. Live for the love and keep tuning in, and you'll always know when our new episode drops. Love you, mean it.